Hi everyone, welcome to today's class. In today's class, we're going to talk about organizing functions. Right, before we start talking about organizing function, we would like to review some of the theories we learned in our previous lectures. In our previous lectures, we talk about three organizational theories. Right, the first theories is institutional theories. So for the institutional theories, the purpose is the scholars they try to examine or try to understand why organizations they look very similar. So why are they using very similar strategies during the operations? So we find out there are three process or mechanisms for the isomorphizations. But the first one we call cohesive isomorphizations. So these indicate the organization are facing a lot of formal or informal external pressures when they're making the changes. Right. The second one is the dynamic pressures. So dynamic pressure is talking about organization in order to be successful, in order to survive. So they are more likely to duplicate some of the successful strategy has been utilized by other organizations when they're facing this uncertainty. So they don't really want to challenge themselves. Go and find out the innovate strategy to address this issue. So being able to duplicate successful strategy from other organization made them believe that's going to be a safe strategy to help them to go through these difficulties. And the third types of the pressure is called nomadic pressures. So that occur when organizations draw on similar resource pools in terms of like consultants, university graduate, and conferences. So a lot of time, the organizations receiving funding from the governing bodies. So governing bodies require them to follow their structures, their rules in order to make sure they can continue to receive these funding sources. So in order to continue to receive these funding sources, the organization have to use that structure that were introduced by their governing bodies. So this is the third type of process called nomadic process. And for the Stitch Alliance, it's talking about the organization a lot of time. They would like to collaborate with each other when they're facing some challenges. So when they're going to collaborate with each other, so they're going to create something called Stitch Alliance. There were three types of Stitch Alliance that we were talking about previously. Right, the first type of Stitch Alliance is called joint venture. Joint venture is talking about the organization. So they basically two organizations work together. They're gonna create a new separate entity, right, to undertake economic activity together. So both business contribute equally, and they can share revenue, share expense, control the enterprise. Of course, they also have to share the risk. Right, so for this joint venture. The second types of the Stitch Alliance we call consortium. Consortium is talking about two or more organizations. So they have the same objective when they participate in common activity. So they're putting their resource together in order to achieve a common goals. Right, the third types of Stitch Alliance is called collaboration. Sometimes we also call partnerships. So partnership talk about the two parties. Normally they will partner together for a specific goal through a contract or a series of contracts. Right, that's the second theory. The third theory is also talk a little bit about it. It's a network theory. So network theory is talking about unlike Stitch Alliance, where the business mainly learn from each other. That was the learning-based partnerships. Network theory is more about skill-based partnerships. Right. So this is three theories we have learned in our last lectures. In today's class, we're going to talk about organizing function. The organizing is the process of delegating and coordinating tasks and resources for achieving the goal. So for the organization, for the managers, when we try to organizing things together, we need to go and develop a plan. A lot of time we have very limited resources, so we have to think about how we're able to use this resource effectively and efficiently. So for the manager, they say they need to identify role, delegate authority, assign work, and provide directions. So this coordinate, can work towards the plan without having barriers in that way. Right, there are a couple of very important concepts we would like to talk about when we talk about the organizing functions. So one is a chain of command, another one is a span management and control, third one is division of labor, and then departmentalization, coordination, centralized and decentralized authorities, and delegations. Right, so we talk about the first key concept is called chain of command. What's chain of command? They say chain of command is a clear line of authority from the organization's top to its bottoms. So they help us to understand these hierarchical relationships between different positions within the organization, right? And the chain of commands also can help us identify the formal path of the communication. I'm give you an example. I'm using these organizations as example. This is organizational chart, right? So if I'm currently a marketing coordinators, right? If I want to ask for more money to use for the promotion of our new product that we just introduced to the market. So this is a marketing director, right? So if I ask for, I want to have more monies to promote the product that we just introduced to the markets. So who should we contact with? Some people say we should contact with finance and control because they're mainly responsible for allocating the financial resources. No, you can't because you are in the same levels of the manager. You have same authority, so you cannot ask him the money directly, right? The procedures is like you have to go and ask the director, get the permission from the director, and director gonna ask finance and control staff to see whether we have extra resource available that marketing department can use for promoting their products. So this is a procedure. So this chain of command is finance and control staff. They are actually overseeing the cash inflow and outflow, but they have no power to see whether they can use these monies on some of things that happens in other departments, right? So this is a chain of the command. We have hierarchical. So the director of the sports equipment divisions will actually make the ultimate decisions about whether you can use more monies for promoting the products. So that's one example. Another example is if you're currently a sports equipment directors, so you would like to ask for creating a new position in your departments, who should you ask? Right? People say, I'm gonna ask human resource people. Right? You cannot ask human resource people because human resource people is not work for you, right? He is per work for sports clothing divisions. So in this scenario, so you have to go and ask possibly one of the VP, right? Ask the VP, say, hey, if we would like to add one position in our department, whether it's possible. The VP is going to consult and see whether it's possible if we have more resource they can support you to have one more staff working in your departments, right? So this is a chain of commands, right? So basically help us understand we have a hierarchical structure in the organizations and also let you know about the communication process, right? The second thing we're going to talk about is a clarification of the responsibility and authority. So talking about within the organizations, so everyone has a very clear understanding what they have to do, what their responsibilities are, right? So I'll give you an example. If you're currently working at the football teams, we have different types of coach. We have head coach, we have offense coordinator, we have defense coordinators, right? We have a lot of other coaches. We have offense line coach, we have running back coach, we have quarterback coaches, right? So we have different types of coach. Every coach have a very clear responsibilities. Like for all these coaches, their job is to provide training plan for their athletes, right? For the head coach, you're gonna develop plans, right? After working with all the other coaches together, develop a game plans, right? So they will have their very clear responsibility of what they have to do on the daily basis, right? So this is about clarification of responsibility and authorities. We also have a formal authority and informal authority. So what does it mean by formal authority? Formal authority is talking about if you're a head coach, the formal authorities is you are the one who made the decisions about whether we would like to hire a coaches or fire a coach. You have the power. You have the formal authority. They give you that powers, right? So and also if you are like say running back coaches, you have the power to develop a game plan for your athletes. This is your formal authority that will give you these powers. What will be informal authorities? Talking about if you are a running back coach that just joined the team, you're brand new here, right? A lot of time you don't really know what to do. So a lot of time you have to ask someone who been here for a very long time, ask him about it. So the someone who have been here for a very long time, so he will have some sort of like informal authority to teach you how you be able to succeed in this organization, right? So this is an informal power. Maybe you guys in the same positions, right? But because he's been here a little bit longer than you, so he know a little bit better about the organization to give you better advice that can help you to to live your life in the organization. And then next one we talk about levels of the authority. So we have informal authorities, recommended authorities, reporting authority, and full authorities. So informal authorities is like if you are one of these coaches, like running back coach, offline coaches, you do actually have the authority to report to the head coach, let them know, say, hey, one of my athletes got injured. He got injured, so he cannot play for this week, right? So you have that authority. It's called informal authority. Recommended authority is talking about maybe your manager asks you to do something, give some advice or give some recommendations. You can give him like a couple different recommendations and let him know how we are able to handle that situation because you have the experience in that area. This is called recommended authorities. You have reporting authorities. So every week, all the coaches are gonna have meetings, right? So head coach want to know, hey, how's the training going in your groups, right? So who's actually had better from the other athletes? So you have the authority, reporting authorities. Full authority is basically talking about head coach giving you the right to do whatever you want. So give an example. If like wide receiver coaches say, well, I'm going to develop a game plan for my athlete for next week, right? So you have authority to develop a game plan for that. Of course, you have to send them, let them inform them, right? But you have the authority to decide how you want to train your athletes, right? So this is about full authority. So these are different levels of authorities, right? So that's a second concept. Other concept, the next one is about span of management and control. Span of control refers to how many employees report directly to our manager. So we have two different types of span of control. One is called narrow span of control. One is a wide span of control. The narrow span of control is talking about, normally it's in the tall organizational structure. It's talking about every manager, they only oversee a few people, right? When we look at wide span of control, they talk about each of the managers oversee multiple different peoples, right? So for the narrow span of control, so there's some advantage. So they're normally very good for like a small business. So one of the advantage for the narrow span of control is basically the increased level of the communication between managers and members, right? And also managers know more about these employees, and also they might increase productivities, right? So this is sort of like one of the benefits, right? But one of the big problem for that is like you think about the decision making process. It takes forever for you to make decisions, right? So this is a problem for the tall organization structure, so narrow span of control. And the second one is called wide span of control. Big advantage, and sometimes it's less expensive because you only recruit, a few managers. Unlike here, right, recruit so many managers. And also you give each of the like lower levels of manager more authority because they oversee more employees in their particular groups, right? So they do actually, feel like they have been given powers, right? And Intel's decision-making process obviously is a lot quicker than here, right? So those are some of the benefit for the flat organizational structure, or say wide span of controls, right? But the problem for here is for the top managers, may be harder for you to actually get the information because there are so many people working in the first line, right? So it'll be harder for you to know exactly how each of the individual has been doing because you don't really have that time, to communicate with each of the employees here, right? So this is about spam management control and other concepts. Division of labors. Right? Division of labor is talking about specialization. So talking about all the job we create are based on the specialties. So we have accountants who has a lot of knowledges about how we are able to send out a bill, pay out a bill on time. Right? We also have an IT specialist. They are able to deal with a lot of like technical issues, computer related issues, because they have more knowledges and backgrounds in these areas. Right? So this is about division of labor. Coordination is talking about a process of integrating tasks and resources to meet objectives. A lot of time, people might have assigned different tasks, but they need to work together in order to perform and complete this task. Right. So for the delegation, is talking about you have to assign responsibilities and authorities for accomplish of the objective. We talk about the manager. Maybe you are able to do everything, but you're not going to be doing everything by yourself. So as a manager, the most effective manager is they need to learn how to assign the task to the right people. Right. So give you example. If you're currently there are two potential sponsors reach out to you, say, hey, they want to talk about potential like sponsorships opportunities for your teams. So you will be very busy if you're working with two different teams. So a lot of time as a manager, you have to learn how you be able to assign these tasks to the right people that can work for you directly, right? So this is about delegation. So flexibility is talking about every employees. So they need to know, they may have to work on the particular duties, but they also need to be flexible. So maybe someone is sick today, and then you will have to help him, help to perform the other people's jobs, right? So this is about flexibilities, right? So we talk about all the different concepts here. The next one we're going to talk about is organizational chart. So organizational chart is a diagram to show the structure of the organization and the relationships among this position and job. So here is an example, right? This is MFL's organizational chart, right? This is not a perfect chart, but they can help you understand the relationship between all the different managers. The MFL, the most powerful person obviously is the commissioner, right? So this chart is not perfect because MFL owners, they are not responsible for the daily operation. So MFL commissioner is basically overseeing the daily operations. But the relationship between MFL owner and its commissioner is owner is selecting the commissioner, but commissioner is actually deal with the issues between the owners, right? So if you look at the MFL's their organizational chart, so commissioner obviously is the most powerful person, right? They made a decision to impact the entirely, right? They also have a secretary and also they have treasurers. They have a MFL executive committee that they normally were made by the owners, right? To deal with some other major issues. As we look at other positions they create, so they have all the different positions. They have communication, PR, administrations, labor relations, finance, networks, international, and sales and marketing, right? So from this organization chart, we understand a lot of information, right? We know understand about management hierarchy. We know commission's most influential peoples in the organization. All these people will have to listen to their top managers. We understand about chain of command, right? All the different authorities, right? We also understand the division of title work. Everyone has been assigned different things, right? They also have information about departmentalization. So everyone, if you were something very similar, they normally work in your particular department, right? So they classify all these different tasks based on the functions. The next topic we're going to talk about is about departmentalization. Is a division of the work into smaller units and they're regrouping into bigger units on the basis of similarities of the features. Most of the organization, their departmentalizations are mainly they put the entire organization based on the functions, right? Sales, marketing, finance, and productions. I'll give you an example. If you're going to have your own gyms here, right? You're gonna be the managers, and you have money to hire 5 people. Now you have to think about what kind of people you need to hire, right? So what responsibility for each of them? So who would you be hiring from your organizations? 5 people. You only have money for 5 people. So some people may think, okay, first of all, we need to hire athletic trainers, right? So they are responsible for group training or personal training. We also need to hire someone is memberships, responsible for the front desk or membership providing service. We need a salesman, right? The sales is membership, market this, right? We have a department manager that deal with human resources and finance issue. We might also need to hire like facility manager that mainly responsible for facility maintenance, right? 5 different roles. Everyone assigned the role based on the functions, right? So this is about functional departmentalization. So this is a chart. So if you're going to have your own gyms in the future, this is a chart that you can use for. And other departmentalization. So we have some specific departmentalization we call divisional structures. So they're created for smaller divisions. We have 3 types of departmentalization we can talk about. First one is based on the product. The second one based on the customer differences. The third one is based on geography and territory differences. Right. For the customer departmentalization, for the product departmentalization, that's a very common in the sports industry. So basically, it's suitable for the business when you have multiple different product lines. So you would like to group the job and resource based on different types of the product lines, right? So all the departments, they're created based on the product. Product managers has authority to carry out the functional activity for their departments. Using Reebok as example. So Reebok is a pretty big sports productions companies, right? Reebok, under Reebok, they have 4 different types of brand, right? Different product. We have Reebok brand, we have Greg Norman collection. Some of you might know Greg Norman is one of the really well-known golfer from Australia, and they also have a rapper company, and also Ralph Lauren footwear. So they purchased Ralph Lauren footwear in 2010. So now Ralph Lauren footwear is also made by Reebok. So you understand, they have 4 different main departments based on their product line, or the 4 different product line, making different types of product for different brand. So this is about product departmentalization. We also have a customer departmentalization. So you classify all the department based on the customer different need and demands. So customer departmentalization not too common in the sports industries, but in other industry maybe it's very, very popular. So one example is, this financial service, the loan companies, right? You have a car loan, you have a housing loan, you have like a electronic loan, you have a commercial loan. So they normally will classify their service based on customers' needs and demands, right? Deal with different things, right? So these are banking industry that using that departmentalization. Next one is about geography departmentalization. Geography departmentalization, they normally create department close to the customers because they are geographically separated throughout the different areas. Normally every store, they will have to go and oversee the organization in that particular areas. This happens pretty common in these like national sports governing bodies, either in the United States or in other country. Or using example like Canada Basketball Association. So they have 4 different departments that are located in a different province, right? They have a basketball in British Columbia, right? Alberta, and Quebec, and some other provinces, right? So every province they will have one association that work directly with the Canada Basketball, right, Association, right? You can see this is departmentalization based on the geography areas. That's pretty common in these food chain industries. McDonald's, like we talk about, McDonald's has been operating in many countries in the world. Every country, they do have their separate organizations to oversee the product that being introduced in their local markets. And for some of the organizations, they're a lot more complicated, like Nike. So Nike is a company, Nike was founded in 1960s, right? So only been existing for less than 60 years, but but they have a lot of different product line, right? They have running shoes, they have soccer product, basketball trainings, they have women's fitness, they also have sports culture and some others, right? Nike has also have the factories in like 9 countries and 10 countries in the world, right? The product has been selling for different markets, so they're using something called metric organization, departmentalization, right? So basically, they had been classified based on their product line. They also, in different geography location, they also have their own business. So basically, we give example in China. So they have a business, Nike, that's office in China, and they have a function by so many different products, right? So this can enhance their productivities and make their management become easier when they're having a lot more product lines and also being operating in multiple different markets. So this is about departmentalization. So one last topic we're going to talk about is about delegations. As a manager, we talk about, although you're capable to do everything, but don't do everything by yourself, right? You need to go and delegate the work to your employees, right? So they will give this manager the time to perform higher priority tasks. You don't want to do, the small things in details, right? You let the employee to do that, right? So that's a one benefit. And another benefit is they can help employee to improve their self-confidence, because you give them authority to give them the power to solve the problems. They will think like, I'm pretty useful to the organization. I'm very useful to my manager because they assign very important tasks for me to do, right? So that's a kind of like a win-win for you. So you have to think about what you could delegate and what you can't delegate it. So what you can delegate it, including paperwork, routine tasks, and technical matters, right? So for instance, you just receive like a proposal from a company, and you would like to let your employee to go and look at the proposal and report it to you to see whether this proposal makes sense to you, whether you want to continue to proceed with that proposal, right? So this paperwork you can let them to do. You can assign the task for them to do. What not to delegate, of course, your personal matter, right? Confidential activities, and also crisis and activity assigned personally by your boss, right? Personal matters. You don't want your employee to say, hey, my daughter is sick today, can you go and send my daughter to the hospital, right? It's personal matter, right? Some more confidential activity, you don't want to disclose a very confidential information to the employees, because you never know who's going to be become the whistleblower and deliver this information to someone who shouldn't know about it, right? And also some of the crisis, they expect your top manager come over and to adjust this crisis. And also some activities assigned by your boss. Your boss trusts you, let you to do things. You better do it for him, rather than having someone else do it for you, right? So this is about delegating tasks. We have a delegation models here, right? Basically, we have to explain the need of the delegation and the reasons for selecting the persons. So if you're going to assign the task to a particular person, right? So now a lot of time you can talk to him in person, maybe communicate with him through email or a phone call. You say, hey, why I want you to do this task? Because I trust you, I believe your capabilities, you'll be able to perform, you'll be able to do a great job, right? And also let them know what he need to do, right? The second thing is set the objective and define duty, the level authorities, and deadline. So let them know, hey, what could you do, right? So what kind of decision could you make? And also let them know when I would like to know the result from you, right? And then develop a plan. And at the end is you have to go and establish a control checkpoint and hold these employees accountable, right? So if you give the employee, say, 7 days to do a research about one of the proposal you just received, he possibly want to check in the 4 or 5 days and ask him about whether he has any issue and difficulties of finding this information, whether he needs some any additional support or not, right? And also remind him, please send you this information within the 7 days, right? So make sure you can get that information on time, and then also try to provide some extra help, let the employee feel that you really care about them, right? So this is about the delegation model, how you could delegate the task to the employees, right? How you're going to delegate things, and also related to trust. We have 4 types of tasks. So some of the things is you can let employees say, you're going to decide it, I don't want to know, you could just make a decision about this. Some kind of thing is you can decide it, tell me later, right? You made a decision and then let me know, inform me, right? And some of the decision is like consult me first and then you can decide, right? And some of the decision is like, no, you can't decide, you have to let me know about it, right? So this is something to do with the trust. How much do you trust this employee? Not just about trust himself, his abilities, right? Sometimes this employee might not know about some of the informations, right? So we'll give you an example. So last summer, I was negotiating contract for Yannick's for the Part G, right? My client Part G said they want to pay about $650,000 to Yannick and bring him to Germany to participate in events. So I was mainly responsible for this contract negotiation, right? But Part G is their expectation is like the lower the better. They say the most idea is like $550,000, but the maximum budgets they can pay for this entire corporations will be $650,000, right? That's our first thing. Second thing, they also talking about the requirement for Yannick is how he can travel to the event, stay there overnight, and then the Part G is gonna cover their business class flight and also one night hotel and also all the meal when he spend the time in Germany, right? So this is the thing they want me to go and negotiate, right? So during the negotiation process, the agents ask me a couple of questions. First questions, right? They say the athletes asked to cover not just about himself's travel, but also all his brothers' travel. So he want to travel with another 3 brothers together. One, then a party to cover that travels. Okay, for this request, do you think I can say yes or I have to say no? For this request, I have to say I don't know, right? I have to go and ask Pachi whether they can cover 3 people's another 3 people's travels, right? Because I don't have the authorities. I don't know whether my clients want to cover that or not, right? So this is is I have to consult it first and decide it later, or even they have to decide it, right? So they have to decide it. Second thing the agent asked me to do is like they say the athlete expect the event to be inside venues instead of outside. Something I cannot control. Again, no. Part G have to decide whether the venues could be inside and outside, right? And the third thing is like the client told me the maximum budget is the Part G told me the maximum budget was $650,000. The agent asked to raise the budget from $550,000 to $600,000. Right? Should I say yes or no? Right? So basically, I have the authority to decide because the client's budget is $650,000, right? So the athletes only ask for $600,000, which is lower than the maximum budgets. So I can decide yes, right? I can decide, and then let the customer know later, right? I can decide. And the agent say he will gonna send out a side contract tomorrow, right? So this thing I don't have to let my clients know, right? So they can just send out a contract right away, right? So this is about the delegation and trust, right? So not all the tasks that you have to assign them to do, right? Okay, this is about organizing, right? Organizing. Try to look back to today's class. What are the three main things you have learned today? What three main things you have learned today? So today we'll talk about organizing, we'll talk about departmentalization, we'll talk about some of the very key concepts and how you can spend time to going to review these concepts that we talk about, right? And also don't forget to complete the assignment that I put it online. So for this assignment, basically what I want you to do is I give you a scenario. So you're currently working at the department. So in these departments, next year you're able to have a 2 new hire, right? So now what you're able to do is you have to go and assign the task to the new hire, right? So how you're going to change the organizational structures? You can either promote some of the senior managers, and also you can also keep that current structures. Maybe you can just assign the tasks to this new hire. So this is the assignments. You can complete it and also submit your answers on Canvas. You can submit your documents. You can also type the answer right away. And the most ideal things is you can create a new organizational chart and put in the Word documents, and then send it, submit it on Canvas. So this is the most ideal. And then I know what kind of a judgment did you make inside the organization. Okay, the plan for next week is we're gonna talk about leaderships. Make sure you're gonna read the readings that are available on Canvas, and then group project is due next week. So make sure that you already start working on a group project with your group members. During the time, any question you might have, don't hesitate to reach out to me. All right, that's it for today's class. I will talk to you and meet you guys next week.